see it as like a miracle, which it really was from the beginning. But I just see it like, wow, after everything that I've gone through, and this is not just me, right? Behold, Behold is not just me. And I want to emphasize that to many people. This is not just me. I started it, but really, I'm talking about a group of people who are not seen and need to be heard and need to be helped and need to be supported. And not just them, but their families. Because you can't, it goes together. The childhood cancer, it's affecting the child, but it's also affecting their nuclear system around them, right? So their system, and it all comes with, how can we help the child during cancer, after cancer, in the workplace, in relationships. There's just many resources that need to be told out there that are not, and I felt like Behold Be Gold is that space, and it's very different than other nonprofits that I've kind of seen. I feel like there's not many nonprofits that focus on survivorship, and there's just so many things at Behold Be Gold that I feel that people have gave me, like, wow, this is amazing, like, this is incredible, and the energy, like you said at the beginning, right? The energy is here. You were beside me at the table. That's the energy that I hope and I want behind Behold Be Gold. Just like a shining ray of light and sunshine and the force behind it, right? That is just something so critical there. So that's what I aspire Behold Be Gold to be, just helping out survivors. And when we help them out in any way, whether it's in policy efforts, education, awareness, helping them gain more confidence, maybe they're looking for somebody to talk to, we are here to help them. I hope that they can feel more empowered after that. So yeah, that is in a huge 1 hour segment. Everything, the story and everything that Behold Be Gold, what it is about. Yes.
Well, you said it in a huge 1 hour segment, but it was a lot of information, but a lot of good information, right? And I really enjoyed hearing everything, because I can show you this. Like, I wrote a lot of notes down as I'm like sitting here listening, and I'm kind of writing bullet points and kind of coming back to things. But one of the biggest things that I love is that, and I love this too, is I love being told no. I love being told I can't do something and that that's not possible, right? And you took that to a different level. They said, you're never going to do this. You're never going to do this. You're never going to do this. And then you turn around and said, watch me. And you did it. You did it all, but you did it for you, not for anybody else, right? Exactly. Not necessarily to prove them wrong, but you did it for you, which is the most important thing that you can do when you're going through something like this. Is you're going to take all of these negatives, all of these things that the world will define you as, and you're going to turn it around and you're going to make it into a good thing. And you did all of these positive things because of it. And you're here to talk about it because of your unwillingness to accept what they told you was the only way your life was going to go. The only things that you were going to accomplish. You're going to be in a coma for a month. You'll never wake up. You're never going to get up and walk out of this hospital. Never going to go to school. Never going to graduate. Meet somebody. You're never going to have a future in child life or in the medical community, which I'll be honest with you, our daughter is going into the child life. That's what she's going to do when she graduates high school. And it is a long process. It is not something that you just apply for and get the job. It's a lot of work, a lot of effort. And you know that. And it was in your own experiences, it was going to take probably twice the effort from you versus maybe somebody else to achieve that, or to achieve going to the practicums or going through all the courses. And you did that. And again, you mentioned it too, the energy that I felt, the energy in that moment was totally incredible, because it was something that I enjoyed listening to. I enjoyed being a part of, because you build off of it. You build off of that energy. You hear that energy and you're going, wow. Now I'm going to take that and I'm going to run with it too, because I'm hearing it, I'm feeling it. Now I'm energized to go and do something. And I love that. So listen, there is so much to unpack on everything that you said, but going back and listening to all of these things and listening to key bullet point words, like no, priority, behold, be gold, why it is a thing, and the word resource, and there's so many different things, survivorship, those words. When you go back and look at them, this community, yes, we focus a lot on the now. We focus a lot on the treatment, on getting the kids what they deserve at that moment, giving the kids the best possible options that we have, which again, are limited to this day still. And what you end up with is what you have focused a lot on, which is that late term, that long term side effects because of the low options that we have. And we don't hear a lot about it. We hear, okay, you rang the bell. You've been through treatment. Now you're in quote unquote survivorship. You're in the 5 years past your last cancer treatment. So technically you're cured, you're cancer free, you're NED, all of these things. Well, your hair grew back. You're going to school, you're driving, whatever. You're living a semi-normal life. And so you must be okay. You must be just fine. You've got everything you need. You don't need anything else from us. We've done everything we can do. But like I said in the very beginning, that think beyond the 5 means that once you get to all those things, to achieve those goals, you had to put in twice the effort to get there. And now the resources for you to keep going past that 5 years are very limited. And so I think what you've done and what you are doing is so incredible because you're giving people the resources they need that you didn't have to then continue and make this community have me, because the meaningful existence or meaningful life after this treatment is so difficult to achieve when you don't have the resources to get you to those points.
Yes.
You know, you can go out there and you can be the strongest person in the world and you can have the most energy and the most dedication and drive. But if you don't have the vehicle to get you to those points, you know, and the motivational, the mentors, all of these types of things, you're not going to get there. And if you do, what do you do once you achieve it? Do you just kind of give up? Do you say, okay, I met my match, now I'm done? You know, I graduated, they said I couldn't, now I'm just going to do what? You know, you set those goals for yourself and you continue to set more goals once you reach those. You know, you and I are the same in that matter. You know, I'm often asked, if I achieve a goal in this community, my wife asked me, will you then feel like you've done what you needed to do and take the foot off the gas? And I said, the short answer is absolutely not. That just means I've reached it and now I can go further because there's so much work to do. And yes, I've experienced it on a different level being a parent of a child going through this, but you experienced it on a level as a child and now into adulthood, and you have a different perspective on everything. But together, we put all of that energy into making a difference in the future. And it truly is an incredible thing to watch. I love speaking to children, adults now that have gone through this and have turned all of that pain and negativity into something so positive. Because you don't have to, right? You could just listen, and no offense at all, but you could just do like your dad and shut it off.
Yeah.
And not talk about it. Because it's easy, but at the same time, it doesn't allow you to be dragged back into that negativity. You can just shut it off and walk away from it and not be on the front lines. You know what I mean? And never tell anybody about it. Just keep it completely to yourself and never say anything. But that awareness and that ability and that want and desire to talk about it means that so many more people are going to hear it, want to learn more about it, go into medical fields, go into research fields, or be willing to just be by your side as you're doing all of this stuff. And so that is something huge. And for that, I commend you incredibly on because, you know, yes, am I doing this because of my daughter and because of everything she went through? Yes. But I also don't know what I would do if it was me in your position. I don't know how I would do it. I don't know if I would want to get up and, you know, move forward in a more of an advocate type manner, or if I would want to say, you know what, I did it, I'm done, and move on with it. And so for what you're doing, it's incredible. And still having those challenges later on, but still saying, you know what, almost bring it on. I'm going to continue to do this no matter what you throw at me, because it doesn't really seem like anything or anyone is going to tell you that you cannot do something without you saying, okay, that's your opinion, but watch me do it now.
Exactly.
And twice as good as what you thought I was going to do. And it may take me longer to do something, but who cares?
Right. No, and I like no, I think right now I'm in so I did the child life stuff, and like you said, I'm glad that you brought it up as well, because it is, and that is something, it is very hard, and people think it's not. Most people obviously don't know about what child life is, or about child life profession in general, like the steps you have to go through it. But I came in peace with myself. For me, I said, you know, this is I can only focus on one thing, like I've been mentioning, like it has to be this, you know. And I did decide. I said, you know, we hope there's going to be always people in the hospital to help, right? And especially there's going to be many child life specialists, which is a beautiful and great and so needed profession. I know who's going to be out there speaking for survivors, right? So I did have to make that really tough decision a couple years ago, that I wanted to focus a lot on Be Whole Be Gold, and I unfortunately I had to leave the child life profession behind. That doesn't mean that in the future it might pop out again, but right now I'm working part-time at a free clinic as a Spanish interpreter, which is also very needed. And I see, I know it's adults, and it's the child life stuff and experience has come a lot in handy in this clinic, because now I'm holding the adults' hands and distracting them so much that it's been very good. And it makes me happy that and I encourage many childhood cancer survivors who have whatever type of late effect they may have, but really cognitively, to it becomes difficult in the workforce and in the workplace. But really, again, going back to that advocacy, and really speaking up. When I started this job at the clinic for medical interpreting, I told myself, Juanita, do something, again, going back to that, do something that you can do and it's not going to break your head. And it was the Spanish comes second language literally to me, and the hospital setting comes second language to me. And so and from the beginning I told my bosses, supervisors, look, I get very fatigued, this happens, I can't drive, this happens. So anyways, they were very understanding, and they were able to accommodate many of my needs, including Uber to the workplace. And I know not a lot of people have that, but I was able to speak up. So the point of this is that if you're a survivor dealing with a late effect, I encourage you to speak up and really just let them know, how can it make your life easier, because you still want to I want to be productive in society, right? I'm not going to sit at home not doing anything. I really want to, besides my childhood cancer life, I also want a normal life, right? I want to be and work. I want to go and work, and I want to socialize in the sense of I want to learn about what I like, and so that's another thing I encourage survivors to do, to really just, whether it's at work, at school, whether it's out and about, learn to advocate for yourself, learn to speak up, because it doesn't hurt. The worst thing somebody can say is no, but at least you spoke up, and at least you're advocating for yourself, right? And it's something that you should not feel embarrassed about. Again, just putting that empowerment to it. It should be a gift and something that makes you very unique and authentic. And that's just a little recommendation there. And it makes me happy and fulfilled, and I can do something that I like, and still be involved with the hospital and the clinic, just in a different manner as well. So now Be Whole Be Gold's able to go to the hospital, presents and different types of stuff for survivors who have survived, and just children in general. And so I'm there, but in a different way now. And that makes it less stressful for me. But at the same time, I know I'm taking part in that field of child life where I've always loved. That's just something I wanted to mention there, to really speak up and advocate and use your voice to make change happen.
No, I think that's great advice, to be honest. I think it's, as a child, your number one advocate really is your parents. You're expecting them to be there for you and to speak for you when you can't speak for yourself. But if you have a voice at whatever age you are, and you feel something or whatever, you need to just let people know what's going on as much as you can, and not be afraid to speak up, and not be worried so much about whether people are listening, but speak up to what's going on and be a part of your own care plan in reality, because you are you are the only person that is you and that understands you from the inside out. And so when it comes to speaking out, when it comes to kind of being honest, I wanted to ask you kind of a reflection question. And this goes to, if you could go back, and about something that you mentioned earlier on, if you could go back to your 10-year-old self right now and speak to your 10-year-old self, going back to school. Now, I have 3 daughters. I understand 100%. And also with kids in that age, that looks are very important, and how you present yourself and all of this. And we all feel, even today, right? We all feel that way. But if you could go back to your 10-year-old self, what would you say to her about the fact that she looks different, and that she is going to be different from others in the way that with your hair and things like that? I know that it was very concerning to you at that moment, which understandable, 100%. But knowing what you know now, would you go back and tell her, what would you tell her at your age now to your 10-year-old self?
Yes, great question. Oof. That is a great question, and very something that I really have to think about. I think um, just being, I think it's a, like, how do I say, lack of education. But no, I think you're, Juanita, what's more important, you being here present alive with your family, or just, that's, it's very important, right? Because what would be the vice versa? What if I didn't get, or the opposite, what if I didn't get the treatment? What if I was just there and had my hair, right? So I would say just kind of reflecting on the opposite, right? Would I rather not be here? Would I rather just lose my hair? And right, I don't know if that's a way to see it or look at it, but kind of more being more courage about it. Looks don't define you. I don't know, I feel like I'm coming out of a like a cheesy quote over here, but that is a tough one. But I guess in the box of that, how do I say? Be strong, be courageous. The hair's gonna grow back. There's only one Juanita. People are here cheering you on. This is something that hopefully is temporary, and you got this. You got this. Those are just words that came into mind that to my 10-year-old self, I would say to me. Yes.
No, I think it's good. It's a tough thing to reflect back on a time like that, and to really have those kind of thoughts at that moment, right? At 10 years old. Your most important thing at that point is, how am I going to look to everybody else? Why do they all look different? Why are they all doing these things and I can't do them? And that's 100% understandable at 10 years old. That's not a bad thinking. That's not bad parenting. That's nothing. That's just what your mind is able to, associate with what's going on. And I think to look back on that, and if you could go back and say, listen, don't worry about it. It's not important. You're here. And that's the most important thing. And I think that's perfect. So, you can look back on that now and you can say, that's how I felt then. It wasn't a bad thing to feel like that. But if I could go back and say something, I would say, don't let it bother you. Don't let that cloud what you're trying to do, and just be yourself. And to be honest with you, that was something that, our daughter we had to do the same thing. Just don't worry about it. Your friends are going to love you for who you are. They're happy that you're in school with them right now. They don't care. You know what I mean? I mean, to be honest with you, there's not a whole lot of 10-year-olds out there that'll say, you know what? I'm going to shave my head too, because at 10 years old, that's something that's important. But in their mind, I think if their parents would have let them, they've all would have done it. It would have just been a whole classroom full of bald heads, right? And it would have been a hell of a sight to see. But your friends truly, and this is something that I think that, we had to encourage or to really impress on our daughter. And I think that, at the same time, at a level of that age, that your friends, they're real ones, they only care that you're there. They don't care, how you look and all of this. They just want you to be there and to be able to go through life with them, and then have a hell of a story to tell later on in college and moving on in life with families and all of this. They just want to be able to see you go through that. So, I hate that you had to go through all of that, and I hate that you had to feel that way. But at the same time, yes, it was an important thing. And we get it. We 100% feel it in this community, in this family. We understand it. Our daughter wouldn't let us shave her head. All of her hair fell out except for about 3 hairs. And she would not let us cut those hairs at all. That was hers. She was in control of it, right? And you're trying to be in control of anything you can at that moment. She was in control of those 3 hairs, and we were not going to be able to touch them. So listen, that's just kind of, with kids, you're dealing with a different kind of level of understanding with what's going on and what's important. But at the same time, as adults right now, if we lost all of our hair right now, yes, would we be vain about it? Probably, wearing hats or whatever, because we're worried about what people would think. At the same time, telling our kids, don't worry about what other people think. It's really a catch-22, but I'm glad that you can kind of reflect a little bit and understand that the most important thing was that you were there and that you beat all of those odds. And let's see here. So we talked about I wanted to ask you about the surgery. So for your port, and you said that things went kind of horribly wrong, or in the sense where you ended up with an infection. Now, do you know anything more about why the infection happened? Was it just, I don't want to say malpractice or I don't want to use big giant words, but was it just, okay, all right.
Yes.
I was just gonna see if it was, just, things happen sometimes, but
Yeah.
was this something that was an unfortunate side effect of the surgery, or was this an actual malpractice situation where a really bad mistake was made?
Yes, yes. Unfortunately, it was number two, the malpractice. And this is something that, of course, there was not, I don't remember, but from what I've gathered pieces from years and years is that there was malpractice and something that I know my dad, um, as dad as he can be, very, of course, who wouldn't? I'm his baby, right? So it is something that unfortunately that did happen, and I don't know much about it, but I know that that did happen. Yes. And the scars I have, just a few of them. When I say a few, is I like four. I have from the two times that, not two times that I had the malpractice, but basically from just opening and for the portacath. And I have it on my neck, and I have some down here underneath my breast area. And that's also something, right? When the scars, I guess, became embarrassing later on, in the sense of I grew up as a job. I told you that I worked at a Montessori, but I also did babysitting stuff, So every time I would go to the pool in the summer with kids and stuff, I always would get asked, "What are the scars? Why are the scars?" And how I always just told kids, "Oh, I got bit by a shark," to make it seem cool. And I think this becomes more intimate. But as you get older, also, you're with partners, you're with boyfriends or whatever, and it becomes personal there as well. So I think those are things that people don't talk as much. In fact, I'm going to a survivorship conference this weekend in Washington, and it's for survivors to like age 40. But specifically for childhood cancer survivors, and it's by actually they were in front of us at CureFest, Special Love, their organization, and they hold this every year. And the first time I felt kind of comfortable talking or hearing about it was through this organization. And they go into very nitty and gritty stuff like relationships, and how, just like last year, it was just interesting, the fact hearing about people getting really down into relationships with their partners, and how their scars really affect them today, like they were children, and the scars today, how they affect them, and everything that got cut up and open, and how it's hard to be in a relationship with somebody. And it gets again back to that embarrassment of, really, you have to learn to love your body. And it's just, I heard a couple stories that really left me thinking like, wow, I'm blessed not to have scars like they do. Mine are very little, but at the same time, it is something that you have to kind of go back and discuss with whoever, if you're just kind of dating, and you have to go back and explain yourself, right? So these are things that really, you don't go up to legislators and go and talk to them about, but these are stuff that people go through, that childhood cancer survivors do undergo, that don't get highlighted as much because it's very intimate. But these are the things that we as survivors, we worry about as we get older. So it is something that's to kind of keep it in the back of people's minds, as survivors, as specifically childhood cancer survivors, survive, get older, and then just going through social relationships and intimate relationships. It's something that becomes very embarrassing, but also very needed to talk about in a way that's appropriate. I don't know how to say it, but a way that it's people who get you, and people who really are not going to make fun and understand you. And so those are also very highlighted conversations in these type of conferences. How can we, just as a group of survivors, help to hear you out and understand each other, and really say, yeah, I can relate, right? That's also with, I've met with certain individuals virtually who I also talk about stuff like that, and it's nice to connect that way as well. So yes.
No, listen, I think that it's obviously, it can be a very tiptoe topic to talk about because, it can be embarrassing. It is intimate. It is, something that is obviously we're not going to, you're not sitting at the dinner table talking about it, right? But you should have that outlet, because if you are, the whole point of survivorship, the whole point of getting beyond that 5 years is that you can have a meaningful, full life moving forward. And that includes things like that are going to be part of your life as you get older. If you want to have a family, if you want to, you know what I mean, get married, all these things, you are going to need to have somebody that can understand. Because listen, it's the same thing as if you do something dumb and you go to the doctor and they say, "What happened?" Do you tell them the dumb thing you did, or you come up with a good story about what could have happened? About maybe it's a shark. I don't know. These you which is great, by the way. You you come up with a good story, and you so that you can get to that point because you're embarrassed. But these doctors have heard everything; they understand, and they're at that point where it's a safe place for you to tell that. And you having a conference or a group or a connection where you can speak openly about these things and other people understand it and they're not judging you for it, it's so needed. These again, one of the biggest keywords I think of this entire episode is going to be resources. It's that ability to give resources to people. And, I say it too. I have gotten from all of these years, I have more contacts and emails in my phone from this community that if I don't have the answer, if somebody asks me, I know who does, and I can put them in that direction. And that is so powerful because you are basically just a human Rolodex, to date myself, right? You are a human Rolodex, and somebody says, hey, I've got a question about this. You know what? I don't know the exact answer, but hey, here's somebody that does. You're going to get all the answers you need right here. And now you have become, you've done something that is almost more powerful than just giving them the information. You've given them a resource that they can then pass on to other people. And then that entire network of resources becomes just that much more in depth and powerful. And I think that is so great. And yes, we have resources that we offer through our organization. I have a whole page dedicated to any organization that we think is a good resource, and we put them on our website because we know that if we don't have the answer, they do. Behold, Be Gold's not on there yet, but it will be. I will have it on our website. It will be on there. Yes, 100%. And that's the other thing too. Is one other thing that you mentioned too was local versus global, and kind of that transition. And we have dealt with a lot of things when it comes to, we are a local organization, but we have adapted and evolved our name into a global because this is a global issue that we're dealing with. This isn't something that's just in your own cities, your own towns where you live. It's all over the world. It's all over the country, however you decide to define it. And so, yes, having that global connection to organizations or to resources all over is important because we don't just deal with people that are states away from us. We deal with people that are thousands and thousands and thousands of miles away from us in different countries, different medical systems, different hospital systems, all of this. So that global word is becoming a lot more prevalent within this community. And that's because so many organizations, I think, are taking on the understanding that we need to focus all over, not just right here in our own backyard. But that's just kind of me going through and kind of associating everything with us to that global movement, because we have to be resources. We have to be knowledgeable in what we're talking about, and that comes from experience. I think you almost get a lot more from life experience than you do from traditional learning because you get it so firsthand and without textbook dictation of what's going on. You get the firsthand understanding of what's happening. You become a bigger resource yourself for other people going through this because you lived it. I say this and sometimes it's controversial and I don't want it to be, but at the same time, controversy is what kind of sparks change in this world. And
go for it.
I've had someone ask me before, do you think that you're smarter than a doctor? And my answer is yes. Not because I've gone to school to be a doctor, not because I have a doctorate degree, because I've lived something and I don't get to clock out at the end of the day. When our daughter was going through treatment, it was 24/7, 365. We didn't get to clock out and go home. She was a name to us, not a patient number. We were doing, you become healthcare provider, you become home health nurse, you become a driver, you become a researcher, you become everything.
Exactly.
So yes, my answer is yes.
Yes.
But not because I want to take away anything that is anything from people that are doctors. I think that the oncologists that we were in contact with are phenomenal. I think that their only hinder is their toolbox doesn't have all the tools in it that they need to treat this damn disease, and that's not their fault. They can only work with what they have. But again, it's not meant to spark controversy that I say that. I just think that it's a feeling inside. And I think all of us that go through this, in a sense, you're smarter depending on how you decide to, associate that word with it because you lived it. Real life experience has a lot behind it. And I like that. Again, no.
I like that, Curtis. No, yeah, I'm with you. There's many times where I feel like because of the cognitive stuff, I'm like, Juanita, you can't do it. Like we talked about stuff like that, but there's always times, and I've learned through just many experiences, and I've had people also tell me that I don't need to do this, I don't need to read, you don't need that, and all this stuff. It's like your live experience is what makes you smarter at the topic and all this. So when I go in now, before I used to get so anxious when I get asked to speak or something, and now I feel more confident because I can't go wrong. It's my life experience, right? It's like it's something that it can't be so hard, to, but no, it is life experience, and that makes definitely that is your life experience and makes you so smarter at it. Yes.
Yep.
And
It's not the experiences that we wanted in life, and this is not where I think any of us chose to be. I think that we're put here for a reason, and I think that yes, I think I was put here to be an advocate and be a voice. I think that you were put here to be, a speaker and to teach the life lessons that you've learned and to be a resource. Maybe not for this specifically. I don't think we woke up and thought this is what we're going to do, but where we are now and what we're utilizing those tools for is what we were meant to do. And so then you turn around and you turn it into that passion, because when it's passion, it's not work. And it's something that we know that there is a lot that needs to be done, and a lot of steps that we need to take, and we have a lot of miles to make up. But I think as long as you stick to the plan of what you have set out for yourself, and as long as if you make sure that that passion never dies within you, that you know that you are going to make a difference, you already have, but you're going to make a bigger one, then we are going to get there. We will see it in our lifetime, the change that we want to make, because we're here to make it, not ask for it. And that's the difference. That's the difference within this community that I've noticed, that there's nobody here asking for it. We're all here demanding it and telling you that it's going to happen.
right, right. Love it all. And going back to the global work, I think it's really cool. I was reading on your website, about the Onco Heroes, and I think it's a great work that they're doing, and I'm glad you guys are supporting them as well, because yeah, it's global, and I know for Behold Be Gold, like I mentioned, I started out with this girl in England, and then it became to this thing in Mexico, and then it became to this thing in Spain, where it was for a child life program that they're doing in Spain with like a toy and virtual reality, all this stuff. And they were asking if I could talk to them a little bit about child life here and how they could make it better there. And then I have this mom in Colombia. I'm from Colombia, who recently last year, her child within the year or so, got diagnosed with childhood cancer. And so I again, going back to the resources, I send them resources from like the school systems here that we have, for our pediatric cancer clinic has a special navigator for cancer patients. And it's like she's a teacher, and she goes to the classrooms to help the teachers there understand the child and their diagnoses. And so they have like a toolkit that's in English and Spanish. So I was able to send that toolkit in Spanish to the parent. And there was just so many great things that I know that together globally we could definitely we are making a change right now, but I think it is other countries, I feel like, also need that support as well, because I feel like here, whether we believe it or not, we have made a lot of progress, but obviously there's more progress to be made. However, in other countries, there is no progress. So they also need, there is progress in other countries where I feel like we need also what they have to help us more here. Recently I was interviewed by Sanofi, which is a bioceutical company, and they were for DR, and they're doing great stuff too there, and they just wanted to know about stuff here. Anyways, interchanging information, I think it's just always obviously amazing, so I think that's all great, and I like the global aspect that you guys also do, so it's great.
It is. It like you said, it's one of those things where information it's got to come together. There's other countries or other, research facilities, they're ahead in places that we're behind, and vice versa. And we've got to be able to come together and realize that information sharing is the only way that we are going to defeat this disease globally. This isn't the space race. I don't care who gets to the moon first. We just want to get this fixed. Exactly. And until we realize that coming together with that information exchange, then we're going to continue, unfortunately, to see children diagnosed every single day, to see children that are passing every single day. And we're gonna continue to see that, and we're gonna continue to see that. But we need to get the rest rest of the world to continue to see that and realize how big of a problem it is, so that we can actually fight this with the support that we're so desperately in need of, instead of being told anymore that this is a rare problem and it doesn't really need that kind of vision. And that will be the only time you hear me say that word. It's probably, to me, next to entitlement, the dirtiest word in the English language is rare, because we are continuously told and force-fed that that's the only issue that we're dealing with, is it is a rare problem. We don't need to really focus that much effort on it. We've got it under control. It's not that big of a deal. Listen, I'm here to tell you that it may not be a big of a deal in your house if you're not affected by it, but for the people that have been personally affected or are personally affected by this, it is the only problem that we need to be focusing on. Because listen, without it, if we don't do something about this, we're only hurting our future, whether it is here in America, whether it's in the UK, whether it's in Mexico, another country, it doesn't matter. We're hurting our own future, because without these children growing up to become the next researchers and doctors and politicians and teachers and educators and astronauts and whatever, without these future children growing up to those levels, we are going to slowly fizzle out. We're going to slowly fade out of existence, because we don't have a future taking over those positions. So that's all part of this. All part of this is, not only just coming together organizationally, but coming together as families, as a community, and really getting people to see that vision, so that we can fight this head on with that support that we need.
Exactly. Couldn't say it better. Very good. Yes.
Thank you.
And,
So
and
we
with
have,
with all that passion, I love it. Very good.
we have to. And like I said, it's never work if you're passionate about it.
Correct.
And it's something that when you get up there and you speak, whether you go to a speaking engagement, whether you're at an event you're hosting, whether you're at CureFest, whatever you're speaking about, if you're passionate about, people are going to hear it. And that's what you have got to focus on and get those jitters out. Listen, I don't like public speaking at all. I don't like being a public speaker, but when it's something that it's coming from your heart, then you can tune out all the other noise and you can just do it.
Correct. Good.
So we have covered a lot in this, and we've spoken a lot about things that has been phenomenal. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you would like to cover that maybe I missed?
To be honest, no, I think everything has been covered, and you were spot on the word rare. It's not rare. In the last few weeks, I've met people, have done public speaking engagements, and 3 people from the past few weeks have had some type of connection with childhood cancer that I've never met here in my small community. This really came to show me how, wow. Yeah, it's not rare. So I like that you emphasize that as well, because I go out and tell people, I know that the topic can get, obviously many people don't like to talk about it. It's okay. I'm not, but it is something that for me has become really a natural thing. Like, oh yeah, I had till the other day, I'm very like that. Oh no, yeah, I had childhood cancer when I was little, and I can tell you that my conversations are like that. I've and then people are like, what? Like, so it's become second language to me, but obviously it's also, I know that it's a topic that many people don't like to talk about it, but hey, guess what? Like, let's set even if it's you can't put it in a positive tone, I know, but for me, it's kind of like the survivorship. No, I survived childhood cancer, so I've been through worse, something like that, and so just by saying that raises awareness, and for me it's just become kind of like the language now. Do I speak about it all the time if I'm like, grabbing some drinks with my friends and all that? No, but at the same time, there's something that I know that basically it is, I'm raising awareness throughout my life every single day by just wearing yellow. Just said, oh, you like to wear yellow? Yeah, my whole closet's kind of yellow. Why yellow? I was like, oh, and so it's just something like that. So, but yeah, that's something that I think it's great that we have a good community, and the community just keeps building every year at CureFest of childhood cancer, which is not, again, not a positive one, but at the same time, you can see the level of support, and that's nice to feel that level of support and people who get it. Perhaps, everybody has been in different journeys, whether you're in the process of being diagnosed, whether you're an angel parent, whether you're a survivor, whether you're a sibling. I think CureFest really, it's an amazing thing that it happens every year, and I tell everybody about it because I think it's a great place to be and to feel connected, and even out there, people in the community can still build support groups around that, so that's just something that I feel that I'm glad that we have the support network. And this is great that you have this podcast to be in this platform, just to be able to talk about. And I think it's also a great, I think I've kind of read not kind of, I've read your story, and you've also told me some about your story with relation to childhood cancer. I think this is all very I think just I'm sure is it JC?
JC, yep.
JC, I think, just making a difference in the world, maybe not, not here physically, but just spiritually here with us. And I'm a board member of Lishy's Gift. Lishy was a young adult cancer patient. And today we speak up about her mom, and her way of coping with it was creating a nonprofit with it. So I know everybody has their different ways of speaking about their angel children's and their platforms and different ways. And sometimes people just don't want to talk, but I'm just very honored to be on this podcast. And thank you for allowing me to, and JC and your family for letting me be part of this podcast. It's very, very great place and escape to kind of talk it out to people who are in this world, who need to talk about it. So thank you.
Absolutely. It's my honor, honestly, and I appreciate everything. It's everything that we do now is to, to secure her legacy, but also to ensure that no other parents or family have to feel anything that we do. We always say that we don't want people to understand how we feel. We just want you to understand that this is a problem and this is something that is going on in our world. And, we lost JC at 8 years old, and the one thing that really has stuck with me, and if I try to get through it, the one thing that has stuck with me is the one thing that was said at her funeral, and really the first time that I cried, because I think at that point I was out of tears, but what was said by the pastor was that JC walked to the gates of heaven and looked at Jesus and said, "But I only had 8 years." And he said, "But look what you did in those 8 years. In those 8 years, she created a movement that she didn't even know she created, that we're still feeling the effects of years later, almost 5 years. We're still feeling the effects of." And that is truly what tells me and all the people that have been put in our path that she's guiding us and that we're doing the right things, because we're just building this network, this collaboration of all of these people that of different walks of life and different stages in this community. And we will, come hell or high water, demand and enact the change that we need so that no other families have to bury their children, and so that no other parents have to ask, why is there nothing more you can do? And so that no other kids have to be told you have cancer and have no idea why the hell it happened to them. So we are going to get through that. We are going to make that happen. And that is an absolute promise, okay? That is something that I can tell you right now, that until I am back together with her in heaven, I promise you that the first things I'm going to say to her is that we did it.
That give me chills. Yeah, no, that is the mission, and it's very hard to put yourself in other people's shoes, and that, I think, with that, what you just said, I think that's the hard part about people who haven't experienced childhood cancer. It's hard for them to put themselves, they say like, well, it's not my problem, it's not my issue, I'm not going to undergo it. So I can't be on your shoes and you can't be in my shoes, but at least have this community that you have experienced it in the hospital setting. I have experience in the hospital setting, even though, and I think we didn't really talk about survivor's guilt, but that is something also that it hits hard for survivors, and it also kind of makes you, again, going back to reflect, like, yes, you have these late effects, but at the same time you are here, do something with it, right? So just hearing you and just speaking about it, and speaking about her, it gives you that purpose of why. I don't know, everybody's different, and it gives you that mission, that, and how you're saying it's just beautiful to see the force behind it all, in the sense of that you are here, you're still going, you're and I'm not gonna put words in your feelings of it, but I'm just saying that you're seeing how the change is happening with your organization and how you're impacting others' lives as well. So, and that's kind of how I feel like each organization is also kind of seeing it. But no, I think that's beautiful, the motivation and the empowerment afterwards. No, and your last words, that until you see her again, left me, oh my gosh. But no. And so tell me, now you tell me, how many care packages have you guys been able to? Is it just is around the world, is what you
It's
mentioned?
it
Or
is it is it's mostly within the states, but we have sent them to other countries as well. We are well over 1,200 now that we've sent since we started this. It is one of those things where we're almost in a yearly fashion sending one a day, kind of the way the numbers work out. It's a great feeling to know that we can send these out and we can be a part of this community and be a part of that change. And actually, our recent event that we held in August, we focused on it because we feel like the care package side, that getting mail in the hospital or getting a mail at home, doesn't get a lot of light, doesn't get a lot of spotlight on it. And it's not because we're looking for the spotlight. It's because we know that it's an important piece of the puzzle because it's distraction. It takes your mind off of all the bad things that are happening, and it lets you know how much people care about you. The amount of things that we received or that JC received in the mail that we still to this day have no idea where they came from or the organizations, how they got her name, any of that kind of stuff. But we appreciated all of it. And she freaking loved it. And that's one of those reasons that when we came home, we said, we're going to do this. Yes. We're going to give back. And then it's just been a nonstop foot race with us to keep up with it all. And it's been hard. Like it's a hard thing to know, okay, I'm going to send out 5, I'm going to send out 10, I'm going to send out this many this week. And it's great. It's a great feeling to know that we're providing that service, but also it's difficult because every single year you're getting 300, 400 more requests. That means that this problem is not getting better. That's where we're seeing it on that end. And so although this was her mission, this was her legacy, this is what we're doing for her, this is what we're going to continue to do on top of everything else, it is a bittersweet type of thing because you're providing these services or you're providing these resources, right, to people that are continuing to have this problem, and we're not in control of it. So we see the positive side, but we see all the negatives are leading to that and to leading them to need our service at all. And the reality of it is, I think most nonprofits, if not all nonprofits within this space, we just want to go out of business. We want to be put out of business. We want to have our 1C3s dissolved and go away because we're not needed anymore because we fixed the problem. That's the goal.
Exactly. I know, and I like. I mean, everybody's so unique within their nonprofits of just like and you said that's really that distraction. It helped her. I mean, it sounds like you were, and what I've read as well, that you're very close. You guys were very close to the Child Life program. So I think that's great. That's always needed. And then I also, you guys got a lot of media stuff on your website too. So that's amazing. I can see that you're a very fierce advocate, and I really really love that. And then there was the kids also I saw on the news that were there as well. And so how did that process were the kids in the school like aware and attentive and nice to JC and the teachers?
All of our kids went to a private Catholic school from preschool all the way up until graduation. And it was a very close-knit group of kids that literally went in the same grades as they went up through the school. So when JC was diagnosed, one of the very first care packages we got in the hospital was from her class. Literally this big box with just a bunch of random stuff and cards from every single one of them. And we read every single one of these get well cards. And I still have all of them. And that was one of the things that sparked us to do what we're doing. But then her class has kept her memory alive all the way going through school now. And they have her picture up in their class that transfers with their class. And they have a unicorn that basically it travels with their class. And they're very much involved in talking about her and keeping her memory alive. And they were all super attentive to her, loved the fact when she came back to school. And like I said, they didn't care how she looked. They didn't care that, when they're all wearing a uniform, she was wearing a unicorn onesie, that was great because she was there. And even when she would go to school again, it was the same thing, kind of only there for a little while because she would get tired and stuff, but she was there and that's all they cared about. And when I remember the very first day after her first day or her first day in the hospital, 3 brain surgeries, we were there for 12 days. On the 12th day, she got up and she walked herself out of the hospital and said, we're leaving, whatever. And 2 days later, we went back to her school to surprise her class and they cheered when she came in.
Yeah.
Her class,
Yeah. Wow.
they were so close, and the families,
Yeah.
we still speak to the families, and and it's like that's when you get a group of kids like that, and that's kind of what I was getting at before with the hair, like going back and talking your 10-year-old self, because yes, you're always going to have outliers, you're always going to have that one, but generally speaking, these kids just care that their friend is there, and they loved each other. And it's to this day, we still connect with them. We stay in touch with the school, and they'll be moving on in another couple of years. They'll be moving on to high school, but that memory's there.
Yes.
And it's an incredible, and they have a dedication bench to her out there that everybody can go sit on. And it's a community that we didn't expect to be a part of. We didn't ask to be a part of. But when you have people that stay with you, no matter what, it's priceless. It really is.
No, it's a blessing. And that's something very unique because, there's communities of communities, so I think that is very blessed that you guys have that community. I'm just thinking of I haven't heard that story. I haven't heard stories like that before where the class and everything like that, what you're saying, because somebody can easily just not care, so, but no, that's very beautiful what you're just saying to me. So, and so just to kind of wrap it up, so she really liked unicorns.
Yeah. Unicorns were her thing. Literally, that's kind of where our organization came from with the name. And it's, the whole kind of a story about it. But unicorns were her most favorite thing. And it was one of those where they would ask, what do you want to see at the zoo? A unicorn. What do you want? It was like, and it was, even at one, we had on the last hospital stay that we had when she came home, we had a parade for her, and we have some friends that have horses, and they brought horses and they put horns on the front of them so they would be unicorns. So yeah, that was her big thing, that, and then, rainbows. And that was the last thing that my wife said to her was, keep chasing rainbows. And so, yeah, it's difficult, to talk about it, but at the same time, I love talking about her. And my biggest message is that if you don't know, just don't be afraid to ask, because I would say 99 times out of 100, if you ask somebody about this or ask somebody about the loss of a child or your own personal cancer journey or what's that scar, they're going to answer it because they don't want it to be a mystery, and it's okay to talk about it. And if they don't want to talk about it, they'll tell you, but don't be afraid to ask. And, the biggest reaction we get is if I say something about it, the first thing people want to do is say, I'm so sorry. And yes, I appreciate it, but I want you to ask more questions. I want to talk about it. I want to talk about her and everything that she did for us and she's done for her sisters and she's done, for her mother and I and in our community. I want to talk about it. So my advice, and again, at the end of every episode, I always ask, my guests for your best advice. But my best advice is always don't be afraid to ask the questions, because we want to talk about it. And that's the only way that the world is going to know what's really going on, is if you're not afraid to ask those questions. So please never be afraid to ask. And if you see me, come and ask me about JC. Come and ask about our story. Come and ask about Battle Corn. Come and ask about anything, because we love talking about it. We're not somebody that's going to be shy about it. And, anybody knows me, I'm a little long-winded sometimes when I talk about it, but you know what? Deal with it. So that's just how it is. So.
No, it's good. It's good. I have many families who have lost, unfortunately, their children to childhood cancer, and some of them, and I've kind of, I've learned, there's some families that I kind of, no, we don't want to. And then I have somebody who told me exact same words you told me. She loves Rowan. Rowan is a huge inspiration in our community, as far as the Rowan community has grown and grown and grown here. And her mom, Mandy, Price is a good friend of mine today, and we love she all the time. She's like, I told her, is it okay to talk about Rowan? She's like, please don't ever stop talking about Rowan, and so that's what we want. It's very similar to you. So, but thank you for giving me that reminder, because I think it is the topics in general about cancer are always uncomfortable, and specifically the grieving parents as well. So I appreciate you giving me that reminder that it's okay to speak about it. I think it's good to educate many people about that as well. So
I agree.
thank you.
I agree. Well, I will give you then that final spot. You've given a lot within this episode already, but I would ask then for your best advice right now for somebody that is going through it, somebody that is maybe just diagnosed or just looking for answers. What is your best advice to them from what you've experienced?
I would say be your biggest advocate. Even if you're in the hospital setting, don't be afraid to ask, don't be afraid to say, don't be afraid to speak. Surprisingly, life gets much easier within a very hard time of your life if you just speak up, right? Even if it's like medication wise, even if it's prop my pillow up, even if it's, hey, I need more ice, or I need more silly stuff like that. Like going out of the hospital, speaking up as far as I need support. Don't be afraid to speak up. Can you simplify? That's something I use every single day of my life, ever since I survived childhood cancer. Can you please simplify it? I need this. I need this resource. I need this highlighter. I need these bullet points. And I need a ride. I always get embarrassed if it's not my mother, if it's not my partner Abraham, I get embarrassed to ask for somebody to give me a ride, even though people are always like, oh, I'll give you a ride, but you never really know, if they're just saying that. So be an advocate for yourself, and don't be afraid to speak up, because I've gotten many yeses, more yeses than no if I speak up, right? And life has gotten more simple and less stressful for me just by speaking up and advocating for myself and saying, I need this. And if somebody says no, okay, no, then I go to the next person. And then the next person might say no. And then the next person, and then the next person is going to say yes. So really speaking up, because that helps those, again, going back to Be Whole, Be Gold, those barriers and obstacles, they're not going to be in the way anymore if we just speak up, right? So yes, that is an advice that I would give.
Perfect. No, I think that is absolutely perfect. And I appreciate it. I appreciate being able to, spend the day with you and kind of go over this, share your story as well as what your mission and your goals are, and share your life experiences, because I think it is so important. This podcast is really meant to give people something to relate to so they don't feel like they're alone on an island when you're going through something like this, which is a big feeling. And so I'm hoping that one person hears it and says, you know what, that sounds a lot like what I'm going through. I'm going to reach out, or at least I feel like I'm not alone. So I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today. And so where can people find information about you and Behold, Be Gold when they're searching for it?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your kind words, Curtis. People can search me at Behold, Be Gold. So behold, like the word behold, and then BE, and then the word gold. So it's all together, Behold, Be Gold. And on my website, beholdbegold.org, Behold, Be Gold on Instagram, Behold, Be Gold on Facebook, Behold, Be Gold on X, and Behold, Be Gold on YouTube. So the Behold, Be Gold's a whole word together. Sometimes people get that, mess it up, but get it, not really understand, but it's a whole word together.
Perfect. Well, if anybody is looking for more information about my guest today, Juanita, you can find it at beholdbegold.org, and then on every single or an email, as well as every social media platform, just search it. All right, that's where it's all going to be, as well as soon as I have about 5 minutes, it will be on our website as well. Under the resources link, you'll be able to have a link to all of that right there. You'll see the logo and you'll be able to click on it, take you right to all those resources. So I want to thank you once again for taking the opportunity to speak with me today. I know in this world, we are all very busy and trying to change it. So it's always great to have a few minutes to be able to sit and speak with each other and collaborate, because that's really what this is about, building a network that is going to grow so big that people are not going to be able to unsee what we're doing. They're not going to be able to turn us off because it is going to be so loud. So thank you once again, Juanita, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day, as well as I hope your mission just continues to grow and everybody gets all the information and resources they need. And please don't ever hesitate to reach out if there's something we can do for you.
Thank you, Curtis, and thank you, Battle Corn Care Packages. I
Absolutely.
appreciate you.
Thank you so much. And we will see everybody else next week.